Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, Ottawa still off for 4 more days, so we're going to dive in to 3 things. Prospects, and you guessed it, more Sens prospects.
And with the AHL All-Star game happening last night, we take a look at how Belleville's All-Star Egor Sokolov did.
We're also going to get into some debates. Who is the more valuable Sens prospect? One that I have on my mind, I think I'm going to get some disagreements. It's all brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Head over to the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 730 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. And if you appreciate today's show, please hit the thumbs up below and subscribe to Locked On Senators. Even though the Sens haven't played in what feels like a month, we are here every single weekday with great interviews. If you missed any last week, Mark Mathot, Dave Poulin, Claire Hanna, and we've got more coming this week, including tomorrow's Sens Central Citizen. But Pilsy, I love seeing Egor at the All-Star game, but I needed to wash my eyes out after seeing the Habs colors on him.
Why would they make all the players wear those colors? I mean, I get it. It's in Laval, Montreal's farm team, but come on. That was just, that was tough to watch Egor score in that jersey, Ross. But I loved, we talked about it, Egor Sokolov is a bona fide villain in Laval, but he did the old shh to the crowd after he scored, and it panned to Laval fans clapping and cheering. So that was a role reversal there, because usually he's telling those same fans to quiet down because he just scored a huge goal. Well, this time he scored the tying goal with 15 seconds left, and that brought it to a shootout. But Ross, unfortunately, Egor Sokolov, the shootout specialist, did not score in his shootout attempt, and they lost that game.
That's too bad. Yeah, it was a battle of the Atlantic and Pacific were the two winners in this one in terms of the conferences. But great showing for Egor, scoring that goal to tie it up late. Must have felt good. He was saying that the skills competition itself probably harder than people would imagine. How cool is it, though, that they took out the glass all around the arena for the skills competition to make it more interactive? I love that idea. The NHL should do that.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great idea. I didn't even fully notice that. So that's definitely something that they should look at, because that's like an old-time feel where you can kind of lean over the boards and feel like you're right in there.
Yeah, I mean, the AHL All-Star game probably a little more entertaining than the NHL All-Star game. Those guys were giving it.
I didn't watch a single second of the NHL All-Star game. Mind you, I didn't watch any of the AHL All-Star game either, but it seemed like the AHL guys were having an absolute blast. At least Egor was.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's start there then, because we're doing an entire mid-season report, we'll call it, on Sens prospects. And Egor is such a great place to start, because you look at the numbers, they jump off the page. Sure, he's in a bit of a funk right now, but all in all, you look at the season, almost at a point per game, top on Belleville in scoring. Is it just a matter of time before he at least gets another opportunity with the big club?
You would think, Ross. I think he should have already had his opportunity here. But like former Belleville Senators coach Troy Mann told us, Egor needs to work on rounding out his game. Sure, the points can be there, and that's all fine and dandy. But the NHL is a whole different animal, and you're not going to be able to produce points like that up in the NHL that quickly. You need to round out your defensive part of the game, your forechecking, your discipline, all those kinds of things. So I guess that's what the Ottawa Senators management are looking at Egor and saying, we don't think you're quite ready yet. Although for me, I think he would fit perfectly on that third line with Shane Pinto and Drake Batherson. And I mean, hey, getting Egor and Drake Pettersson, two former billet brothers up in Cape Breton, back together, that would be awesome.
Yes, it certainly would. So Egor, the only question I have is whether or not he can produce in a bottom six role when guys aren't feeding him in the right spots. So I'm curious how it will translate, but there's only one way to find out. And
that's, I mean, if he's playing with Pinto and Pettersson, it's not like you're like, oh, well, he's not really playing with offensive-minded guys. Like, those are guys, Pettersson can set him up for sure. Pinto, definitely. I think that would be great. So I think you're putting him in a position to succeed if you got him on the wing on the third line.
Yeah, interesting. I'm really curious to see, because that's the only question we have, right? The skating. He looks lumbersome at times out there, but I think at the most part, you have that A+ ability in his shot, and you need him to be able to get it off. So I'm curious to see. This is probably, and I'm glad we're starting here, right? The biggest question mark, because he's going into, or he's in the final year of his entry-level contract. Like, they have to make a decision one way or another. I know it's probably going to be a two-way contract next, but at the same time, you have to get a taste of what you're ordering for the main meal when it comes to what his career could bring in Ottawa. And I hope they give him a chance here when they need another call-up. I know right now you've already got some youth implemented in the lineup, and that brings us to the next guy on this list. And we even had the debate whether or not we're going to add Ridley Greig, because he seems like he's gone from prospect to bona fide NHLer in 4 games, right? Like, he's undefeated in the NHL. We said that yesterday. We have a laugh about it. But, like, is he ever going to play another AHL game?
I don't know, Ross. And it's tough to say, because it's going to be interesting to see how this team decides their direction and what path they're trying to take at the trade deadline. The trade deadline will be very telling to see what Sens management thinks of this group. But he's already centering a second line in the NHL. He's between Alex DeBrincat and Claude Giroux. It's insane to think that's how you debut as a young centerman in the NHL. And Josh Norris ain't coming back anytime soon, Ross. That second line centerman position is wide open, and Ridley Greig has shown, at least in a small 4-game sample size, that he's up to the task. So why would you bring him back down to Belleville? I mean, he was brought down as a paper transaction, but notably a healthy scratch. So he's not playing in Belleville. So I would say for the rest of this season, at least, we don't see him in a Belleville jersey.
2 points in 4 NHL games, but what's almost most impressive to me,
1 million shots.
That too, 0 penalty minutes.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
We weren't expecting that based on the way he played in junior and the way that he's known to get under guys' skin, even in the AHL, 38 penalty minutes in 28 games. So not only is he not putting his team shorthanded, but he's helping the Sens on the power play. Both of his assists have come on Claude Giroux goals on the man advantage. So I think he's going to be a really interesting player down the stretch. But if I have to give you a snap take, I don't think he goes back. I don't see why he would. They know that the problem, or what he needs to work on most, is the conditioning aspect of the game, and not in terms of being in shape, but in terms of putting on weight so he can play that rambunctious style and stand up for himself when need be. We know mentally he's able to, but physically you want him to do well in those battles. So I think that keeping him up there, working with the strength and conditioning coaches in Ottawa, it's going to make the effect just the same. But on the ice, producing, looks great, and unreal kind of how we had him pegged. Still number 1 prospect, don't get us wrong, but we were kind of like, oh, is he going to do the Josh Norris development program where you spend the whole year down there? And then 2 weeks after we put out the episode for the Sens top 10 prospects, bang, there he is in the NHL, and not looking like he wants to let go of this grip.
Well, Ross, I think the plan was to put him on the Josh Norris development path, but ironically, Josh Norris gets injured, and that plan changes. A material change happens in a matter of days. Pierre Dorion was very clear. He didn't mince words. He didn't beat around the bush or speak in riddles or anything. He said, Ridley's not ready to play in the NHL. We don't think he's ready. We think he needs to stay in Belleville more. Flash forward a couple days later, and he's centering your top 6 lines, or he's in your top 6 centering the second line. So it's crazy, the change that they've had with Ridley Greig, and he's kind of forced them to make that change and keep it there. Like, they didn't have a choice. They had to bring someone up to play second line center. Shane Pinto, we love him, but he is a third-line center, at least for now. That's where he's perfectly slotted in. So Ridley Greig is proving that he can get it done, and I think he's going to continue to play well over the course of this season, Ross.
Now that asks the question, can the Belleville Senators play well? Because they go into the break limping and sitting in 7th place in the division.
Dead last.
2-6-2 in their last 10 games, 6 points out of a playoff spot, and that playoff spot is being held by the Rochester Americans, who just beat Belleville just this past week. Coming up, we're going to get into that. Some defensemen on the team. The old debate, is it JBD? Is it Lassie Thompson? And then we're going to turn our attention outside the immediate organization and look at a disher and a couple guys cooking up heat on the ice in Winnipeg. That's all coming up. You are listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our presenting sponsor. It's FanDuel Sportsbook, the #1 sportsbook in North America, official partner of the NFL, and the sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. And for a good reason, guys. This is the ultimate sportsbook. I've been loving FanDuel since I've got it. The thing I love most, Ross, they've got a great app. It's simple, it's safe, it's secure, it's easy to use, and if you're new to FanDuel, even better, especially for our American friends. New customers, join today and get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. All you got to do is sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. They got all your favorite bets, moneyline, props, over-unders, parlays. Oh boy, speaking of parlays. But you can have same-game parlays, Ross. If you want to up your chances for a bigger payout, try the same-game parlays. Pilsey's parlay of the day was brought back, and on brand, Ross, it failed miserably.
It almost looked like me. I don't know if you noticed the start of that ad read. I just missed my mouth with my water.
Oh, oops.
Water all over myself. So that was you with your parlay.
Yeah, Ross, in hindsight, I don't know why I bet on the teams I wanted to win. Everybody knows, if you followed along with Pilsey's parlay of the day, it goes wrong in hilarious fashions. I mean, we talked about Florida and Tampa Bay having the same rivalry as a hammer and a nail, Tampa being the hammer. Yeah, Florida beat them 7-1. So the nail fought back in this one. But you know what? The key is you got to keep trying. And as long as you're betting responsibly, only put $10 on it. Just trying to get the little action in here. And the best place to do it is at FanDuel. So guys, go check it out. You get $150 in free bets, win or lose, if you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends at the GLEBE Central Pub. Find them at 779 Bank Street and make sure you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. We're sending ourselves to the GLEBE Central Pub February 17th. We will be there ready for a live show, 4:45 Eastern. Then the shuttle to the Chicago Blackhawks at Ottawa Senators game. I'm getting so many DMs at Sens Central saying, just got my shuttle tickets. Can't wait to see you guys, and we can't wait to see you there either. It's going to be an absolute blast, February 17th. But guess what? GLEBE Central Pub has shuttles to ultimately, I want to say like 80% of the games this year. Go check their website out, GLEBECentralPub.com, and they've got the full schedule of shuttles to and from the game. $15 round trip. Nothing wrong with that. They drop you off at the GLEBE Central Pub. Be responsible. You can have a few pops. You can have whatever you want. It's easy to do, and they'll take care of driving up and down the Queensway, getting you to the CTC, and then back to the GLEBE Central Pub. Check them out, 779 Bank Street. Make sure you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you, and head over to Sens Central on Twitter. We've got a direct link to the GLEBECentralPub.com website where you can buy your tickets for the shuttle that is selling fast. We've already sold out one full bus and a half of another. 2-bus limit, so hurry up, get them before they're gone. Don't tell your friends, hey, all good, we're going to do this, we'll show up the day of. No, we'll be sold out, guaranteed, okay? Get there, GLEBE Central Pub, GLEBECentralPub.com. We'll see you on February 17th. All right, Pilsy. Is it Saturday yet? craving some Sens hockey.
It is not Saturday, Ross. It is Tuesday. We got a ways to go.
But coming up this week, we have a Sens Central citizen from New Jersey. No, not one of the Devils fans who's getting after us this weekend. Did you see Jack Hughes scored last night? I thought he was in a body cast after.
Yeah, the Kachucks were attending his funeral from last I heard.
My goodness. I was writing a sympathy card and everything, and I had to stop mid-sentence. I was like, wait, Jack Hughes just scored? What?
Yeah.
Can you believe it? My goodness.
We're glad he's okay after that really dangerous play that could have really hurt him.
Really, really hurt him. Hey, I'm hurting the way the Belleville Sens are playing right now. And
Ross, you're hurting. Remember my hot take do you remember my hot take for this season?
No.
The Belleville Senators will go on a run all the way to the Calder Cup finals. They are in dead last in the North Division as we speak.
Playoffs?
I don't think the offs are happening, Ross.
No, but they've had their fair share of injuries, one of which is Roby Järventie, who's playing center last game. That might have, or 2 games ago, rather. That might have been an act of defiance by the head coach, but who knows? Only 7 points, 3 goals in 12 games for Roby. We hope that he can figure it out here. Angus, though, Angus Crookshank, 14 goals, just 1 off the team lead. Scott Sabrin leads the team in goals. I think that kind of tells you where they're at. And no disrespect to Sabrin. Very funny. They put out a get to know you on Angus Crookshank. His favorite pro hockey player he put down is Scott Sabrin. So got a good kick out of that for sure.
Yeah, love that. Crooker's a good guy, and he's having a decent season, Ross. I mean, definitely he started off his AHL career insanely hot, and he's kind of cooled off a little. I think as you get into the grind of an AHL season, it becomes tough to put up points like he was. But 44 games, he has 14 goals, 11 assists, good for 25 points. He typically is on the 3rd line in Belleville's roster lineup. So I think Angus Crookshank, he's got a long way to go. But after suffering an injury like he did the last season, it might hinder him a little bit. So we're hoping that he can keep on feeling healthy and keep things going here, as he's a big part of Belleville's offense. And he's been a pretty consistent guy, and he's been healthy this season, which is great to see. Yes,
I'm glad you mentioned his health. It's great to see him play 44 games so far this year. Victor Lodin, meanwhile, is turning 24 at the end of the season. And my question is, like, is he happy in the AHL? You know what I mean? Like, he's missed a lot of time with injury as well. I wonder if he gets a look. I would give it to Egor before Victor. Lodin obviously played his first NHL game, game 82 last season, but 15 points, only 6 goals. I was expecting a little bit more from him, closer to a point per game. I'm curious to see how his second half of the season goes. But having offensive weapons isn't a whole lot of anything unless you can keep pucks out of your net. Belleville's had a tough time of that. We'll get to the goalies in just a minute, but Lassie Thompson, JBD, safe to say neither of their season has gone exactly as you'd hope. For JBD, yeah, he's looked good at times in the NHL, but you look at just 2 assists in the AHL. I know he's an offensive-minded guy, but even in North Dakota, he was able to produce points at a pretty decent clip. Do you think that even though he's an offensive defenseman, maybe this is a good question for Meth next time he's on, like, is that still a concern? Like, you're not expecting him to be a point producer at the NHL, but I'd still like to see him, commanding play a little bit more down at the A.
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned Meth there, because my immediate thought was, remember we talked to Mark Mathod about being in the AHL and how he could have been an AHL All-Star, but he got called up that year. And what was the term he used, Ross? It's just everything was too easy for him down there. He's a defensive guy that was just able to break through into the zone, carry the puck with ease, and he didn't need to rely on just being a shutdown guy. He was able to ramp up his offensive abilities. We're not seeing that with JBD yet in the American Hockey League. Now, is that all doom and gloom? Or does that mean JBD isn't progressing the way we want? Not necessarily, but certainly I would expect a guy that's playing top pair minutes in the AHL that's kind of on the cusp of being a full-time NHLer to produce a little bit more than 2 assists in 18 games.
Yeah, fair enough. And then Lassie just came back from a long injury setback. We'll see how he can get things on the right track. Hoping for that with the goaltending as well. Mando, been put in a few spots. He's done well. He's done all right. Look great in the East Coast League, but that's different. The ECHL, I should say. But at the AHL level, the team save percentage is under 900. That's kind of just unacceptable, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, but I'm not putting this entirely on the goaltending, Ross, as this team's roster has been an absolute disaster. Like, it all trickles down from Ottawa's injury struggles, and then even with Ottawa's struggles and them losing players to being called up to the NHL, Belleville internally, their injury list has been 8 players long all year, and not just day-to-day bumps and bruises. There's season-ending injuries, week-to-week stuff, so it's been tough to put together a formidable D-core and really have the roster you want with Belleville. So when you're playing in the AHL, even at the best of times, the AHL can be a scrambly league for goaltenders, and they really have to be able to make second and sometimes even third saves. But when you don't have a good D-core in front of you, it's really tough. So although I am disappointed with how Mando and Mads have, how their numbers have kind of showed this season, I'm looking at their stats with a grain of salt, being like, this is not the ideal roster in front of them. So it's tough to evaluate them here, but I think Mads Søgaard still, in my mind, is a goalie of the future. Goalies are weird. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Like, we're seeing a lot of goalies, Ross, kind of hit their stride in their late 20s recently here. So I'm not worried about Mads Søgaard just yet.
In terms of goalies who have played at least 15 games, Mads Søgaard is 35th in save percentage out of 49 AHL goalies.
Yeah, he's on the wrong side of 3 in goals against average and on the wrong side of 900 in save percentage, unfortunately.
Yeah, but hopefully the injuries are in the back for him. I know he got to back up for Ottawa in that game in Montreal right before the break. So hopefully some good vibes come his way and he can continue. Because when he's on his game, man, he looks so good. He's almost Ben Bishop-esque, where he's such a big body but can move laterally so well. Great rebound control, but it seems like he can get in his own head at times after a bad goal, and one can turn into 3 bad goals a little quicker than he would like. So we're rooting for Mads. Obviously, we've had some great interviews with him that you can check out on our YouTube channel or wherever you get podcasts. But all in all, you're hoping for a better second half for the whole team. Like, this is just a team that, I mean, when they drop the puck in Cleveland on Friday, you're hoping that they really turn the page, because Cleveland is the next team ahead of them right now in the standings. Cleveland has games in hand. You need to go in there and at least get one of the 2 games. You have to. There's just no reason why this team should be last in the North Division. It's actually kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, it's not good. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. There's no putting lipstick on the pig on this one, Ross. This is not the season Belleville was supposed to have.
No, it wasn't. But there are some pieces outside of Belleville that are either going to help in the AHL by the end of the season, choo-choo, or in the organization in the years going forward. So coming up, we're going to look at Tyler Kleven. I also want to get into a debate with you. Jorian Donovan or Tomas Hamara, the 2 OHL defensemen, both 2022 NHL draft picks. I think I'm on the minority side of the debate when it comes to who has the brighter future between those 2 guys. We're also going to go overseas, check in with Filip Nordberg, the mythical creature, and Oskar Pettersson. How's he doing in the SHL? That's all coming up. You are listening to Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Athletic Greens. Ross, I am still on my AG1 kick. This is now day 11 in a row of me having AG1 in the morning. And why am I able to do this, Ross? Because it's simple. It's 1 scoop of AG1 in my cup of water every day. I mean, you'd be spilling that all over your sweater and you'd have a green sweater. So maybe it's a little too complicated for a guy like you. But for someone like me, Ross, I'd rather take 1 scoop of AG1 rather than having all these pills, supplements. You don't need it, because AG1 is going to provide you with 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, and more, so that you can start your day off right. And all of that is good for many, many reasons. It helps with your nervous system, your gut health, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, aging, hair and nails, and more. And it's lifestyle friendly, whether you're keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, less than a gram of sugar, no GMOs, and still tastes great. Cheaper than your cold brew habit, and over 7,000 5-star reviews. That's good. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in your cup of water every day. Simple. And to make it even easier, Athletic Greens is going to hook you guys up. It's going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you got to do is head to athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance from Athletic Greens.
All right, Pilsy. It's time for the prospects outside the immediate organization. Boy, could some of them potentially help right away in Belleville, though. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Tyler Kleven. The last note accent. And it sounds like he will turn pro after this season, which is good news for Ottawa because you look at what he's been able to do at the NCAA. He's almost too mean for that league. He's been suspended now twice in the last 6 games. You look at the stat line on his last game, to me, is telling the story of where he's at. Goal, assist, 3 shots, +3, 15 penalty minutes, kicked out of the game, suspended.
Did it? I guess you can't get a Gordie Howe hat trick in college. There's no fighting, but that's essentially a college Gordie Howe hat trick.
Yeah, I don't even know who the toughest guy in college history was, but name it after that guy.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Belleville could use a little bite on their back end. Like, you got guys like Lassie. I mean, Dylan Hetherington is a big guy, but he's not necessarily like a nasty guy that people are worried about. So I think it'd be great to see Kleven at the end of the year in Belleville for sure.
Oh, definitely. And I'm looking at his stats right now, and he's really jumped off, right? He had those back-to-back 2-goal games, and he just seems more confident with the puck. That's something that we knew was why he wanted to get into his 3rd season in college. You know, Brad Berry's a kind of guy who he's not going to give it all to a freshman unless you're named Jake Sanderson. You have to earn the opportunity to play on the power play and to get your puck touches. And I think Kleven's done a great job. At times he's had to play over on the right side, but I think at the NHL level, he'll be a left side defenseman. Kind of I think a perfect comparable for him, what you're hoping for, is like a Nikita Zadorov, like a guy who's just big, mean, a presence, a guy who's going to stand up for teammates, a guy who, when he's on the ice, you better know it because he might catch you with his head down. I know the people who see the most in his game would say like a Jacob Trouba, or like it's borderline dangerous out there. Like you saw what he did to Nazem Kadri last night. That was a clean hit, though. But we've seen at times where maybe he goes over the line or he gets his elbows up. But I don't know if he's going to have the puck skills that Trouba has. I hope he's as mean, though. Like, I want him to be an asshole at the NHL level.
Yeah, that would be great.
Sens are missing that right now.
Yep, I agree. And Ross, I envision a 3rd pair of Kleven on the left side and Branny on the right side.
Perfect.
I think that's a great pairing.
But the question is, can Tyler step into the NHL right away? Or will he need to go to Belleville?
You got it. I think he needs a season in Belleville, yeah.
Now the question is, the second question.
We got questions.
Question remains. Guys get stuck in Belleville. We've seen it with JBD. How long do you think he'll need to stay in the AHL?
Ross, you know me, Pilsy, preaching patience. I would rather him spend a little more time in the NHL rather than get rushed up to the NHL. Plus, you got to see what you have in Lassie Thompson and JBD before you do anything. Like that, where you make your decisions on those 2 guys is going to alter where this franchise goes in that decor moving forward. Like, it can't be understated. We've said it. These are 1st-round picks from years ago. And I know they're still young defensemen, but you're seeing guys that were drafted in those drafts that Lassie and JBD were already thriving in the NHL.
Andre Miller.
Yep. So that's the thing. Like, eventually the patience has to wear off and you need to make a decision, or else you kind of end up in, unfortunately, kind of an Eric Branstrom situation where the rest of the league catches on to what the value of this guy is, and you've got top prospect 1st rounders that their trade value now is heavily diminished because NHL executives around the league are seeing, well, these guys aren't exactly what everyone thought they were.
Now, if you look at Tyler Kleven's NCAA career, he's basically at a full NHL season now. 84 games played, 18 goals, which I think is a surprising stat. 18 goals as a defensive defenseman, 12 assists, 30 points in 84 games, and 197 penalty minutes, Pilsy. This guy, I think his game's going to translate even better into the pro ranks than it is at the NCAA, plus 26 over that span as well. Of course, in his freshman year, played on an awesome team as well. But I'm really intrigued to see what's next. He's probably the prospect that I'm most curious how he's going to pan out, because obviously people were really harsh on him or, dismissive of the type of game he plays, but we love a little meat and potatoes type hockey. And when you add in a slap shot like he has, man, makes things super interesting there for the second round pick in 2020. Let's move on to the second round pick in 2021. This one can be quick, but Ben Roger and the Kingston Frontenacs, Pierre Dorion got a look at a 9-1 waxing they took in North Bay this past week. Interesting note on Ben Roger. He has now played the exact same amount of games as he did last season with Kingston after being traded from London, and he has the exact same amount of points. Last year, it was 1 goal and 9 assists, plus 11. This year, 2 goals, 8 assists, and minus 12. We know they traded Shane Wright. They're a bad hockey team now. They lost Merilainen. Still, I don't know. I don't know about this guy. We'll see. Time will tell, but I'm a lot more hopeful for Tyler Kleven than I am for Ben Roger. That is a fact.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go too far into this, but let's just say I'm disappointed with the direction the Sens went with that pick. I'll say that for now.
I'm mad and disappointed.
Yes, yeah, because my viewing of Ben Roger in the rookie tournament in Buffalo, you can see him out there.
He was there.
Doesn't mean I exactly loved what I saw, that's for sure.
Fair enough.
But lots of time. I don't want to be too harsh on the kid. That's why I'm kind of reserving judgment here, but
yeah. Meanwhile, staying in the OHL, Tyler Boucher out for the rest of the season. Sorry, not for the rest of the season.
You gave me a scare there, Ross.
He's not back skating yet, though, so we'll get you an update as soon as we do. He has 15 points in 17 games. I was reading Filip Daoust, who is out for the season, unfortunately, because Daoust had 7 points in 9 games with Belleville. Let's stay in June. Let's stay in the OHL. Let's have this talk here, because I think a lot of fans, maybe it's the vocal minority on Twitter, to say the least, but Tomas Hamara has quickly become a fan favorite amongst those on Twitter. But I don't know if I'm just not seeing it. The numbers aren't jumping out either. But if I'm the Sens right now, I'm pretty happy that they got Jorian Donovan in the 5th round, because to me, he's a better prospect right now than Tomas Hamara.
Yeah, I was a big Hamara guy. I really thought that was one of their better value picks based on where other prospect reporters, scouts, analysts kind of had him. Everyone seemed to think that was a really good spot for the Sens to grab him. I'm just getting his draft position here, 3rd round, 87th overall. But man, his showings with Team Czechia and the World Junior, the mistakes outweighed the positives, unfortunately. A lot of bad turnovers that led to goals and not looking so great. And he started off, Ross, his preseason in Kitchener. I think he led all rookie defensemen in the OHL in the preseason, mind you. And it has not translated throughout the regular season, unfortunately.
Yeah, OHL preseason. I'm not going to take a whole lot of stock into that. But when you look at what his game is, it's puck moving, it's being able to walk the line on the blue. Everything that he was touted as doing, Jorian Donovan, who's a month younger than him, is doing it better. Now, Donovan did have experience last year, although he's a healthy scratch for most of the Hamilton Bulldogs run to the Memorial Cup. But I don't know if that 40 extra games of OHL is indicative of just how much of a step he's taken forward. This is more, it's not me raining on Tomas Hamara as much as it is impressed. You run through Dorian's, it's so hard because Pierre Dorian,
that gets you every time.
Jorian Donovan, read off his stats, man. This guy is just putting offensive numbers up.
So not Jorian, but Jorian Donovan or Jorian Donovan. Oh boy, now you got me all twisted up here, Ross. But playing for the Hamilton Bulldogs, yeah, he is having an epic season, Ross. In 45 games with the Bulldogs, 11 goals, 30 assists for 41 points. He's projected to get 60 points in 66 games. 60 points as a defenseman sounds pretty good to me. And that's the thing. Everybody was rolling their eyes, especially people that hate the Sens, which there are a lot of high haters. They're saying, oh, wow, classic Ottawa, drafting a guy just because he has the same last name as a guy that works for the team. Obviously, those are people that just have the Sens hater glasses on, and they didn't really look at what this guy can provide, because he's showing that he can be a legit prospect. And yeah, he's a little on the smaller side, and he's, well, not that small, 6'1", 183 pounds, but he's only 18 years old, so he's got a long way to go, Ross, but he's looked very impressive this season.
I was going to say 6'1" probably towers over Hamara, who I think is a small 6 feet.
Yeah, they got it. Well, they got Hamara at 6 feet 192, so he's got a little weight on him. But
yeah, we'll see. Well, we saw
he does look small out there.
We saw how Donovan can handle himself in a tilt, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So I love what Donovan's doing. Yeah, he's -4, but again, the team isn't what it was last year. 11 goals, though. Are you kidding me? He just looks awesome. And I just put a poll up on Twitter. Who's the better Sens prospect right now? Is it Hamara or Donovan? And it's 51 to 49% in favor of Hamara right now. And maybe you just go off draft position. And I don't think any of us have watched a whole lot of either at this point. But Hamara, I just want to see more from him. And I know that he's already a 2-time World Junior guy, and still at his age, he's got plenty of development left. But I'm expecting more. And the Kitchener Rangers as a whole have been pretty disappointing this year based on expectations. But I don't think he's kind of helping his cause a lot. And we've had some people with boots on the ground, and they text me after. They're like, I don't know. We get the DMs going on that, where it's just like, I don't know. He didn't really jump out the page to me. But plenty of room left for both these guys' development. We don't have to make any sweeping generalizations or finalities about what they're going to be as prospects. They both have a long way to go, and it would be awesome if they could battle it out over the next years. But I think that the fact it's even a conversation is as much as it is an indictment on Hamara as it is a tire pump of Donovan's game about just putting up offensive numbers, already doubling his point total from last year in 19 less games. So hopefully he can keep that trajectory going. Pilsy, let's look at
just one more thing. Keep in mind, Hamara is adjusting to the North American game, which does take time. He's played games in Liga. He's spent his whole time over in Europe. So it does take a little bit of an adjustment period. Just one little note there.
We'll be watching. But a guy who hasn't needed to adjust because he's still overseas is Filip Nordberg. And we got some news on Filip Nordberg. He's back loaned to the Allsvenskan, which is the same league that he was playing with in Skellefteå. Or Skellefteå. Man, I'm so bad.
I think it's Skellefteå. I think the K makes a sh sound, but we'll get our guy Alex Lindberg on it. Yes.
Well, there you go. You're messed up his name there. Linz Cog. Come on.
Oh man, apologies.
However, I think this is the best for Filip Nordberg because, as we've seen time and time again, and Oskar Pettersson, who we'll get to, is kind of bucking that trend finally. But Nordberg played 9 games in the SHL. In 5 of them, he played less than 2 minutes. And in 2 out of 9, he sat on the bench the entire game and played 0. The most ice time he's had in an SHL game is 4 minutes and 33 seconds. So get this guy to a league where he can play, because at his age, that's the most important thing, getting ice time. And he's just not getting it at the SHL level.
Yeah, let's have the mythical creature be less mythical. Let's have him out in the open.
Meanwhile, Oskar Pettersson is a full-time SHLer now. Can production come next? He has 1 goal, 1 assist in 21 SHL games. Hey, he's making some room for himself out there. Got into a little bit of a slap fight, I'll say, because you're not allowed to actually fight it. He was trying to rip the guy's head off with his gloves on. But he is sitting at 33 penalty minutes in 21 games. 15 of those came in that altercation. But what I like is because he's left the team at times to play internationally, they get called, whether it's World Juniors or international events overseas, He's actually played 57 total games this year between SHL, the Junior League, and International.
Wow.
25 goals and 43 points. So, hey, lots of ice time and lots of production. So I'm happy with this year of growth in Oskar Pettersson's game.
Yeah, and it needs to be noted that you just talked about Nordberg, a guy that had an SHL opportunity, but the coaching staff just doesn't trust him. And that's a very typical thing is, well, it could be a combination of doesn't trust them and they don't want them to hit that certain minutes played, then they have to pay them more. With Pettersson, he blew right by that. They didn't put kind of limitations on him or anything. He proved that he is worthy of that. And Ross, he signed with Rogla for another season. 2023-2024, he will be with the team again. So that's great signs for our guy, Pistol Pete.
Yeah, it's great, and I'm happy that he's staying over there another year. I don't think he needed to have a quick development where he's coming over and playing in Belleville right away. I think him being in the SHL is perfect for next season. Hey, we got to come back to North America now. Let's finish.
Oh, yeah, there's one guy I want to talk about overseas still.
Go for it.
This is, Ross, you mentioned that Tyler Kleven was kind of your prospect that you're keeping an eye on. For me, it's Leevi Merilainen here. I mean, I know your faith faltered in him earlier on, but you've got to be a little bit more sure now, Ross, as he is dominating in Liga. And I say that emphatically because look at these numbers, Ross. 30 games played, 1.86 goals against average, a .924 save percentage, a record of 14, 8, and 5, and 5 shutouts. This guy has been on an absolute tear. In games he's started, Ross, he is on a 5-game win streak. So Leevi Merilainen is making it happen over in Karpat. And I think, Ross, the only question now is how long does he stay there?
I think till the end of this season, but I don't know. I was honestly surprised that he came over to the OHL, and then I was even more surprised that he went back. So,
well, you mentioned it, right? The Kingston Frontenacs were a one-and-done super team, and when Shane Wright left, they traded off pieces, and there's no point coming over to the AHL and playing on a bad team when you have an opportunity to play on a good team in a professional league in your home country.
Yeah, no, I get that. And it's probably one of his dreams growing up was probably to play in Karpat on their top level. But it's just like, hey, don't you want, like, why wouldn't you want to play on a bad team? Doesn't that just mean you're getting more shots and more opportunity to make saves?
Nah, I get what you're saying, and that there can be some truth to that. I would rather have him playing in Karpat personally.
Okay, well, yeah, definitely worth seeing. You mentioned the numbers just popping off in the Liga. So we'll keep an eye on it, man. That's awesome to see because last year, sub 900 save percentage in the OHL. So you want that to be a lot better. Let's go to the WHL. I want to wrap up with my Winnipeg Ice because Zach Snapchuk is fitting in just great. 11 points in 11 games, and he's spreading it out. He's basically like a point each game type player. He's playing a lot with Matthew Savoy. He's kind of their first guy over the boards on the penalty kill. He's only going to get better and better as this season goes on. So I'm excited to get out and finally be able to see them. Carson Latimer, I think he's still trying to find his role with this team. He was such like a top line point producer on a bad team in Prince Albert, and now he has to fit in, juggle up and down. He used his speed and scored a great goal a couple games ago, but 5 points in 12 games is less than he was producing in Prince Albert, but I'm excited to see. I think he's going to score a big goal in the playoffs. I think he's that type of guy, like a role player where he's going to pop off. And I mean, 4th-round pick, you're not expecting him to light the world on fire, but I still think that it's a good season overall. 33 points in 43 games right now. We'll see if he can pick that up going forward. And let's wrap up, Pillsy, with a guest on this show later this week, the Disher. I'll put this on a platter for you, Stephen Halliday.
Steven is on a revenge tour ever since it was just an offhand comment, Ross. I don't even know why I said it. I was just like, he was talking about scoring goals, and I was like, that's okay, because you're not really a disher. Don't know why I said it. He quickly points out to me, what are you talking about? I had 60 assists last season. So yeah, that one blew up in my face, but hey, I'm not too serious of a guy. I'll run along with the joke. He certainly is a disher, Ross, as he has had 7 games with 2 or more assists. He leads Ohio in points. He has 30 points in 28 games. So we're excited to talk to Steven again, and I'm sure I will give him the opportunity to throw that back in my face. That guy can dish it.
That guy can dish it. That guy can shoot it. And for all the talk, Matthew Knies, right? Leaf fans are touting him as the next great Leaf prospect. Well, guess what? He's tied in points in NCAA play with Stephen Halliday. So Halliday certainly doing great for a recent, and albeit an overager, going in being about a year or two older. I think he is the same age as Knies, but Knies obviously with more experience at the NCAA level. For a freshman, though, 28 points in 30 games. Like that's a good look. Sorry, it's 30 points in 28 games. I got my wires crossed on that one. So great to see for Halliday. We'll get his take on his upcoming season later on this week. I believe Thursday or Friday. We'll see what mess schedule's like. Otherwise, we'll have that ready for you on Friday. So, looking forward to that. Let us know in the comments your favorite Sens prospect right now. Maybe one that's flying under the radar. How about one we didn't get to? Because, of course, we can't touch on every single one. So, where are you at? And then go vote on Twitter at Sens Central. Who's the better prospect right now? I think that's the great debate here. Is Jorian Donovan or Tomas Hamara? And guess what? Donovan's taking the lead now. 53% to 47% in the poll. But there are reinforcements coming. But Pilsy, I think as a conclusion to all this, nobody's knocking at the door for the NHL right now outside of Egor Sokolov and maybe JBD.
Yeah, no, I would say JBD's knocking at the door. Like, he's coming up on your Ring camera, and he's there saying, no, it's not Uber Eats. Like, let me in. I'm trying to get into the NHL here. And Egor, he's ready for a chance. At least he's ready for a chance, especially if this season doesn't go the way we want with the Senators in the wild card race. Just see what you got with your prospects. I think that needs to be the new narrative if they can't string along more wins here. As Ross, may I remind you, the Ottawa Senators are still on a 4-game win streak.
And they will be for another 4 days until they meet the Edmonton Oilers on Saturday afternoon. Stay tuned for some scheduling notes. We're going to do things a little bit differently next Monday for the postcast, but we'll fill you in on Friday and Monday there. We will have the postcast for you after the matinee. Edmonton Oilers, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl come to town to take on the Ottawa Senators. So make sure you catch up on any interviews you may have missed, any episodes of Locked On Senators. But for today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.